When I first spawned into the forest, I didn't think much of it. It looked calm. Trees, fog, a little clearing. Nothing that screamed danger. I honestly thought I'd mess around for a few nights, get bored, and leave. That was my first mistake. Because the forest doesn't scare you right away. It lets you get comfortable. Might on 10. False safety. The first 10 nights felt easy. I built a fire, I gathered wood. I walked around without thinking twice. The forest felt normal. Quiet but normal. I remember standing there on night 5 staring into the trees thinking, is this really supposed to be scary? Nothing happened. And that's the thing, nothing happening is how it starts. We're night 11:20. Something feels off by. Night 15, the forest felt different. Not dangerous, just heavier. The fog stayed longer. The silence felt thicker. I started noticing how quiet it really was. No animals, no movement. Just me and the fire. I caught myself checking behind me more often. Not because I heard anything, but because it felt like I should. That's when I realized I stopped exploring for fun. I was exploring to make sure I wasn't alone. But night 21 to 30. Learning the rules. Somewhere around night 25, I figured out the real rules. Fire equals safety. Light equals control. Darkness equals mistakes. As long as the fire stayed lit, I felt okay. Not safe, but okay. I started managing everything carefully. How far I went. How long I stayed out. How much wood I brought back. The forest watched all of it. I didn't know that yet, but it did. Our night 31:40, the forest watches. Back night 30 didn't feel special. Night 31 did. That was the first time I thought I heard something. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Just movement. Like something shifting its weight in the trees. Every time I turned toward the sound, there was nothing there. But the feeling didn't go away. By night 35, I stopped standing with my back to the forest. I always face the trees now, just in case. Read night 41:45. Pressure. The forest started pushing back. The fog rolled in faster. The fire flickered more than usual. Not enough to go out, just enough to make me nervous. I noticed how small my camp felt compared to the trees. How tall everything looked. It felt like the forest was leaning inward. Watching how I reacted, testing how calm I really was. A night 46:50, respecting the forest. By night 50, I wasn't scared. But I wasn't confident either. I respected the forest. I stopped wasting movement, stopped wandering without a reason. I stayed close to the fire, I kept the light strong. I waited instead of rushing, and nothing attacked me, nothing chased me, but I could feel it. Whatever was out there, it knew I was learning. Night 50 ended quietly, too quietly, and that's when I knew. The forest wasn't done with me yet. It was just getting started. After night 50, the forest didn't get louder. It got smarter. Nights 51 through 55 felt controlled, almost measured. The fog would roll in slowly and stop right at the edge of the firelight, like it knew exactly where safety ended. I started noticing how precise everything felt. Nothing random. Nothing wasted. I kept the fire strong and stayed close. I didn't explore unless I had to. Every time I stepped away from camp, I could feel the pressure increase, like the forest was paying closer attention. By night 56, the silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore, it felt full, like something was holding its breath. I stood still more often, listening, waiting for something to happen. Nothing ever did, and that somehow felt worse. Nights 57 through 60 stretched longer than the ones before. The darkness felt heavier, thicker, like it had weight. The fog didn't move unless I moved. When I stopped, it stopped too. That's when I realized the forest wasn't reacting to sound or movement. It was reacting to me. By night 61, I slowed everything down. I stopped rushing to grab wood, I planned my movements. I watched how the trees looked from different angles, memorizing shapes and shadows so I'd notice if something changed. Sometimes I thought I saw movement just outside the firelight, not clear enough to be real but not clear enough to ignore. I never followed it. I kept my eyes forward and my hands busy feeding the fire. Nights 62 through 65 felt like a waiting game. The forest didn't push. It didn't retreat, it just stayed there watching. The fog would thicken and thin like it was breathing. By night 66, my camp felt smaller than ever. The trees looked taller, closer together, like they were slowly closing the space around me. I could feel it even when nothing moved. I stopped standing with my back to the forest completely. Even when managing the fire, I angled myself so I could still see the trees. I didn't want to give the darkness anything it could use. Nights 67 through 70 were quiet in a way that felt intentional. No footsteps, no sounds, just the fire and the fog. The nights felt slower, like time itself was dragging. That's when I understood something important. The forest wasn't trying to scare me anymore. It was testing how long I could stay calm. By night 71, the pressure was constant. Not panic, just presence. Like something was always just outside the light waiting for me to make a mistake. I focused on breathing, on keeping the fire alive, on not reacting to every shadow. Nights 72 through 75 passed without a single attack. No chase, no sudden movement. Just long, heavy silence and the feeling of being observed. Every night ended the same way. The fire still burning. The fog still there. The forest still watching. And as night 75 faded, I knew the rules were changing again. The forest wasn't done. It was just getting more patient. By the time night 76 started, the forest felt different again. Not louder, not darker, closer. The fog didn't just sit anymore. It hovered, shifting slightly even when I stood still. The trees felt nearer than they should have been, like the space between them had tightened. I stayed calm. I kept the fire alive. I didn't rush. Nights 76 through 80 passed slowly. Every movement I made felt noticed. Not punished, just observed. I stopped reacting to shadows completely. I let them exist. I focused on the fire and nothing else. By night 81, the silence changed again. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was focused, like the forest had decided something. The fire flickered more often now, but never fully went out. Just enough to remind me that it could. I fed it before it needed it, never letting it drop too low. Nights 82 through 85 felt longer than all the others. Time stretched. Moments lingered. I started noticing patterns in the fog, where it gathered, where it pulled back. It always respected the light, but barely. By night 86, the forest stopped feeling like an environment. It felt like a presence. Not hostile, not friendly, aware. I didn't explore anymore at all. There was nothing left to prove. I stayed at camp, standing in the firelight, watching the trees the same way they watched me. Nights 87 through 90 were quiet in a way that felt deliberate. No distractions. No false scares. Just patience. I could feel the tension building even without anything happening. Like something was being prepared. By night 91, the fog felt thicker than ever before. It rolled in fast and stayed close. The firelight barely reached past the nearest trees. I didn't panic, I didn't move. I stayed where the light was strongest. Nights 92 through 95 passed without incident, but every night felt heavier than the last. The forest felt smaller. The camp felt fragile. I started understanding that surviving wasn't about doing more. It was about doing less. Night 96 arrived without warning. No change in sound. No visual shift. Just the same forest watching quietly. Night 97 followed the same way. Still. Silent. Intentional. By night 98, I realized something important. The forest wasn't escalating anymore, it was waiting. Night 99 began exactly like every other night. No music. No signal. Just fog. Trees, fire. I stood in the light, calm and focused, letting the night exist without challenging it. The fog pressed close, then slowly pulled back. The trees stayed still. Nothing attacked. Nothing chased. The fire kept burning. And as night 99 continued, the forest stayed exactly where it was. Watching, waiting, learning, the same way it had been since the beginning.